All right, let's jump right in. Instead of looking at Jerusalem as, just a spot on a globe, what if we looked at it as a dynamic, living, spiritual architecture? In this explainer, we're diving into some absolutely fascinating source material from the Demetrian codices. We're going to explore a really powerful narrative analogy to unpack exactly how biblical application works in real time.
So here is our master blueprint for today. 1. The spiritual blueprint revealed. 2. Jer, laying the foundation. 3. Usa, the covenant territory. 4. Lem, the dedicated inhabitants. And 5. Dwelling in the frequency. Let's unroll it.
Starting off with Section 1, the spiritual blueprint revealed, redefining the map.
We've got to ask ourselves this crucial question right away. Is the New Jerusalem actually a place on a map? Because to really grasp this narrative, we need to realize we aren't talking about physical coordinates in the Middle East. Not at all. We are dealing with an entirely different spiritual coordinate system.
And honestly, this concept is a total game changer because it snaps us right out of our old earthly view. Just think about it. On one hand, you've got the geographical Earth. That's a static map, right? It's just dirt and physical boundary lines that people have literally been arguing over for centuries. But on the other hand, you have spiritual birth, this dynamic architecture and a realized reality that shows us the Creator's true intent.
Let's move right along to Section 2, Jer, laying the foundation and the active directive.
We begin to build this with the Hebrew root yara. You see, the Jer component here isn't just a static name for a town, it's actually an active instruction. Imagine a master architect casting a surveyor's line across a totally untamed landscape to mark out the perimeter of the new Israel. That is what this means. It's the foundational act of pointing the way.
So the crucial takeaway is that this foundation isn't a physical piece of rock. When Isaiah chapter 28 talks about a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation, it's using an analogy. That bedrock is actually the foundational instruction laid down in Scripture itself.
That brings us to Section 3, Yusan, the covenant territory or the space of manifestation.
If Jer was the instruction, then this middle part, Uzzah, is the covenantal territory. Think of it like a massive, glorious ancestral estate that has been completely reclaimed and restored. What's happening here is a clarity act of the Spirit, which entirely supersedes any kind of earthly, hostile, or municipal land bank mechanisms.
So we are dealing with a legal and spiritual space governed completely by Spirit. It echoes the idea of a promised land, sure, but not as something you'd find on GPS. It's a completely different jurisdiction where the laws of the Most High are the active, daily governance.
Next up is Section 4, Lem, the dedicated inhabitants, the state of the chosen.
Now, this is the pivot point, where this massive structural blueprint actually meets the human soul. The suffix lem acts as a seal of dedication, coming from the diminutive of Lemuel. Just like a child being dedicated to God, the inhabitants of this space have moved completely out of the physical struggle. They are vibrating with a very specific frequency, the frequency of the chosen and blessed,
which makes perfect sense of this. When John's vision in Revelation 21 describes the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, it's not talking about giant buildings literally falling from the sky. No way. Narratively, it's the manifestation of these dedicated inhabitants, the people carrying that lem frequency, finally stepping into the spiritual space prepared for them since the foundation of the world.
And that leads us to our final piece of the puzzle, Section 5, Dwelling in the Frequency, the Inhabited Blueprint.
When we bring all these architectural pieces together, the whole shebang synthesizes into one incredible reality. Jer, the instruction, Usa, the territory, and Lem, the dedicated inhabitants. Seeing the law, the covenant, and the inhabitants locked together like this, it completely dissolves that boundary between heaven and earth. Which means it is not a city you visit. It is a frequency you dwell within. This isn't just ancient history or some abstract theology that sounds nice on paper. This is the active, realized reality of the Creator's intent, and it's an invitation to a lived experience that you can step into right now.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this to think about. Look at the blueprint of your own life right now. Are you just visiting a geographical idea, staying tied to the dirt and the boundary lines of a static map? Or are you actively choosing to dwell in the living, spiritual frequency of the New Jerusalem?